In a quiet Swedish town where secrets rarely survive the winter cold, a teenage girl walked into the local police station, trembling, frightened, and carrying a truth heavy enough to tear her family apart. She wasn't there to report a stranger, but her own biological father. And the reason? Nobody, absolutely nobody, saw it coming. Snow had begun to fall unusually early that November in Västerås, drifting like powdered sugar over the narrow streets and the still waters of Lake Mälaren. The sun hung low, barely grazing the rooftops even though it was only mid-afternoon, giving everything a gentle orange tint that made the cold feel strangely peaceful. But inside the Lindström household, peace had become a rare visitor. 18-year-old Alva Lindström sat by her bedroom window, knees pulled up to her chest, watching those lazy snowflakes collide with the glass. To anyone who didn't know her, she might have looked like just another Swedish teenager lost in thought. But the truth was deeper, far deeper, than anyone around her could imagine. Her phone buzzed on the table. Again. She ignored it. Downstairs, she could hear the faint melody of the radio playing an old Kent song, her father's favorite band. Johan Lindström hummed along, his voice low and warm, the way it always was on the weekends when he tried to relax after long shifts at the industrial plant. Johan had always been an attentive father, the kind who asked about homework, packed extra food in her lunch bag when she was little, and insisted on driving slowly on icy roads while lecturing her about common Swedish sense. To anyone outside, he was the kind of man who shoveled snow from the neighbors' walkways without being asked. But something had changed. And Alva was the only one who noticed it early, long before the rest of the world caught up. She finally reached for her phone, letting the message preview show. "We need to talk today. No excuses."
Maya.
Her best friend. Persistent, loyal, and in this case, right. But talking felt dangerous now. Talking made everything real. And Alva wasn't sure she was ready. A knock on her door startled her. "Alva? Middagen är klar, Jartat. Dinner is ready, darling." Her father's voice.
Come.
Gentle. Familiar, too familiar. She swallowed hard and stood. Her hands felt colder than the snow outside. The dining table was set with simple Swedish staples, potatoes, dill, baked salmon, and a bowl of lingonberry sauce. A candle flickered in the middle, reflecting off the kitchen's pale wooden walls and giving the illusion of warmth. Johan smiled as she walked in. "There you are. I was about to send a rescue team." She tried to smile back, but felt her muscles resisting. Her mother, Sarah, placed a hand on her shoulder as she passed. "You look tired, Alskling." "I'm fine," Alva replied quickly. But she wasn't. And Sarah sensed it. She had sensed it for weeks, but every time she tried to ask, Alva withdrew behind a wall she didn't know how to break through. Dinner continued quietly, interrupted only by the radio and the soft clinking of cutlery. The air felt too thick, like the house itself knew something was wrong. "You're very quiet today," Johan finally said. Those blue eyes of his, warm, fatherly, studied her carefully. Alva forced a breath. "Just school. It's been a lot lately." He nodded sympathetically. "Gymnasiet is no joke. But you know you can talk to me about anything, right? Anything." The word made her chest tighten. If only he knew. After dinner, she escaped back to her room and closed the door softly. She sat again at the window, watching her own reflection tremble. She pulled out the folded paper she had hidden beneath her mattress. She had read it 50 times already, but each time it hit her harder. A document. A hospital record. A discovery made entirely by accident during a school genealogy project. A name under biologist Kvar, Johan Lindström, and under moderns make vid barnets Fodels. EJ gift not married. That part she expected. Her parents married later. But below that line was the one that shattered her. Rapporterad spermadinator, Avicels. DNA match found with listed donor. A DNA match. An illegal sperm donation. A violation of Swedish law. A violation committed by her own father. Johan was never a registered donor. Yet somehow she was biologically his. And the clinic had flagged it. She remembered the moment she opened the letter the clinic accidentally sent her. We are obligated to notify the proper authorities regarding this irregular and unauthorized genetic match involving a former staff member. A staff member. Her father had worked at that clinic part-time while studying years ago. The realization had hit her like a collapsing building. Her father had illegally inseminated her mother. Her mother didn't know. The clinic didn't know. Only Johan knew.
And now so did she.
A secret so big, so illegal, so morally twisted that she couldn't sleep for nights. Especially because the letter warned. This constitutes a criminal offense under Swedish healthcare and genetic integrity laws. She covered her face with her hands and fought the rising panic. She didn't want to report him. He was her father. He had raised her, protected her, loved her. But he had also lied, deeply, fundamentally, to both her and her mother.
Her phone buzzed again.
This time she checked it. Maya, Alva, you can't keep this inside forever. It's eating you alive. What are you going to do? She typed slowly. I don't know. I can't destroy my family. Maya replied instantly. Your family isn't your fault. His choices are. Alva pressed her forehead against the cold glass. The snow was falling harder now, swirling like tiny white confessions. At 10:47 p.m., long after her parents had gone to bed, she heard footsteps.
Soft.
Hesitant. Her door creaked open. Her father stood there, wearing a thick gray sweater, looking more tired than she had ever seen him. Can we talk? He whispered. Her entire body froze. She felt like the world had stopped breathing. Sure, she answered, though her voice was barely audible. He stepped inside and closed the door gently. I don't know what's going on, he began, but you've been avoiding me for weeks. And I can't help if I don't understand. His voice cracked, not enough for most people to notice, but enough for a daughter. Did I do something? The question sliced straight through her.
Yes.
He had done something. Something illegal. Something unforgivable. Something life-changing. But looking into his eyes, all she saw was worry. A father's worry. Her throat tightened. I'm okay, she lied. But Johan shook his head.
No.
You're not. Something's wrong. A silence stretched between them, thick enough to choke on. Finally, he exhaled, long and defeated. I love you, Alva. Nothing could ever change that. She swallowed hard, feeling tears burn behind her eyes. If only he knew what was coming. When he closed the door and walked away, Alva broke down completely. Because deep down, she knew something now with terrifying clarity. If she didn't do something soon, the authorities would discover it themselves. And she would lose the chance to tell the truth on her own terms. The weight of the choice crushed her chest. By morning, she knew what she had to do. She didn't eat breakfast.
She didn't speak.
She didn't even look at her father. Instead, she slipped on her coat, wrapped a scarf around her neck, and walked out into the cold Swedish morning where the sky was pale and heavy with snow. Her feet carried her automatically through the silent streets until she stood in front of a blue and white building with bold letters. Police Station. Her hands shook violently. She stepped inside. Warm air hit her face. It smelled faintly of coffee and cleaning agents. Officers moved about casually. A receptionist looked up. Hedge. How can I help you? Alva's voice almost failed her, but she forced it out. I need to report someone. Okay, the officer said gently. Who? She stared at the floor. My father. The officer blinked. Surprised, but calm. What has he done? Alva squeezed her eyes shut and said the words that would change her life forever. He broke Swedish genetic integrity laws. And I have the proof. The room seemed to fall silent. The officer's expression softened into something that looked like both concern and sadness. This is serious, he said quietly. We need to take your statement. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. She wasn't just reporting a crime. She was breaking her own heart. And she had no idea what consequences were waiting. The police station felt colder once Alva stepped inside the small interview room. The walls were painted a pale gray, the kind meant to feel neutral but instead made her chest feel tighter. A single desk lamp cast a warm glow over the table, fighting the harsh fluorescent lights above. The chair beneath her felt too firm, too upright, like it didn't want her to relax. Not that she could. An officer with gentle eyes and a thick beard entered the room carrying a folder and a steaming mug of something that smelled like cinnamon tea. He placed it in front of her. "You look cold," he said kindly. "Warm up a bit. My name is Officer Henrik Bergstrom. I'll take your statement." "Thank you," she whispered, wrapping her hands around the cup even though they trembled. Henrik sat down across from her. "You came here alone. That tells me this is something difficult for you." He paused. "So take your time. Start wherever you need to." Her throat tightened. Her eyes burned. But she nodded. "I found something," she whispered. "In a letter. A letter from a clinic." She handed him the folded document she had carried with her and feared since the day it arrived. He read silently, his eyebrows drawing together as he reached the section outlining the genetic match and the irregular donor identification. When he finally looked up, something in his expression had changed. Not judgment, not shock, but a soft, heartbreaking understanding. "You're saying," he said slowly, "that your father illegally donated sperm to impregnate your mother while working at the clinic?" Alva nodded. "And neither your mother nor the clinic knew." Another nod. "And you found out accidentally?" She swallowed hard. "Yes." Henrik leaned back, rubbing his forehead. "This is serious. And painful. And complicated." His voice stayed soft. "I need to ask you something, Alva. Before we go further, do you feel threatened by your father? Has he ever harmed you?" Her heart lurched.
No.
"No, he's never hurt me." Then, quieter. "Not physically." Henrik's expression softened. "Emotionally? I don't know," she whispered. "He lied. He lied to my mom. He lied to me. He changed the course of our lives without asking anyone. And every time he hugs me or tells me he loves me." She broke off, burying her face in her hands. "It feels like I'm breaking inside." Henrik gave her a moment. "Alva, reporting something like this, especially when it involves someone you love, takes incredible courage." "It doesn't feel like courage," she choked out. "It feels like betrayal." Henrik shook his head gently. "The betrayal didn't come from you." She wiped her cheeks with her sleeve. "Does your mother know?" he asked. "No," Alva whispered. "And I don't know how to tell her. I'm scared she'll hate me, or hate him, or break." Henrik let out a slow breath. "We'll handle that carefully. But first, I need to file an official report. After that, an investigator will contact you. There may also be mandatory interviews, your mother, your father, and possibly the clinic staff." Her heart sank deeper with every word. Am I sending him to jail?" she whispered. Henrik hesitated. "There are penalties. They vary. Sometimes they involve prison time. Sometimes heavy fines. Sometimes both. It depends on circumstances." Alva stared at the table. "I don't want to ruin his life." Henrik studied her for a long moment. "Was it ruined the moment you found the truth?" That made her inhale sharply because deep down, yes. Something had shattered. "Even if the law becomes involved," Henrik continued, "that doesn't erase the love he has for you. Or you for him. This won't be easy. But it's often the truth that frees a family, even if it hurts first." She nodded shakily. He slid the document back toward her. "Are you sure you want to proceed?" She closed her eyes. Thought of her mother. Thought of her father's gentle smile. Thought of the lie that had become the foundation of her entire existence. "Yes," she whispered. "I'm sure." Henrik wrote the report slowly, carefully. Each click of his pen felt like a hammer driving into her chest. When he finished, he handed her a copy. "You did the right thing," he said quietly. Alva didn't feel like it. When she stepped outside, winter air slapped her cheeks. The sky was gray now, heavy with new snow. Everything felt different, colder, quieter, as if the world sensed what she had just done. She wrapped her arms around herself and walked. Instead of going home, she wandered aimlessly through the old town. past the bakery that always smelled like cinnamon buns, past the small church where she used to attend Lucia rehearsals as a child, past the frozen lake where people skated in December. She ended up at a bench overlooking the water. Snowflakes landed gently on her coat. She pulled out her phone. Maya had left several messages. Are you okay? Did you go? Alva? Her fingers moved slowly. I reported him. Seconds later, the phone rang. Alva. Maya's voice was frantic. Are you alone? Where are you? I'm coming. No, Alva said quietly. Don't. I just need a moment. Maya went silent. Then softly, I'm proud of you. Alva's voice cracked. I don't feel proud.
You will, Maya said.
One day, when the truth stops hurting so much. But Alva couldn't imagine that day. After a long while, when her fingers had gone numb from the cold, she stood and headed home. Each step felt heavier than the last. When she reached the house, her mother's car was gone. Probably at work. The lights inside were on, glowing warmly against the cold evening. She stepped inside quietly. Her father was in the living room, sitting by the fireplace. He turned at the sound of the door. His face lit up with that familiar, gentle smile, the one that always made her feel safe as a child. Hey, he said. Where have you been? I was worried. Her stomach twisted painfully. I just needed some air, she said softly. He stood up, walking toward her. Are you sure you're okay? You've been acting strange and… I'm fine, she cut in quickly. Too quickly. He froze, studying her closely. Alva, what's going on? His voice was soft, pleading. Please don't shut me out. She looked up at him, and the sight broke her heart. He looked tired, concerned, innocent, and yet guilty. She felt tears rising again, and turned her head away. I'm just tired, she whispered, brushing past him. I need a shower. Okay, he said slowly. But I'm here if you need me. She went upstairs, closed the bathroom door, and slid down to the floor, letting silent tears fall as the shower steamed the room. What would he say when he learned? Would he deny it? Would he break? Would he look at her differently? Would she ever look at him the same again? That night, as she lay in bed, she heard her father walking down the hallway. His steps paused outside her door. For a moment, she thought he might knock, but he didn't. He simply stood there. After a few moments, she heard a soft whisper, so faint she barely caught it. I'm sorry. Her breath froze. Did he know? Did he suspect? Or was it a father's apology for something else entirely? She didn't sleep that night, and the next morning, her world shifted again. At 9:14 a.m. sharp, the doorbell rang. Her father answered. She listened from the top of the stairs as a calm but firm voice said, Mr. Lindstrom, we need to speak with you regarding a matter reported to the Västerås police station. Her father's voice faltered. I'm sorry? What matter? It concerns a genetic integrity violation. Silence.
Deep. Heavy.
Devastating. Alva closed her eyes, her body trembling. Her father whispered, barely audible. Who reported this? And the officer replied, Your daughter. A sharp intake of breath echoed through the house, her father's world collapsing in a single second. The officer continued, We need you to come with us for questioning. Her father didn't speak at first. The silence was suffocating. Then finally, she heard his voice break. Alva? Not angry, not shocked, just heartbreak in its rawest form. Her mother's voice came from behind him, confused. What's going on? Her father didn't answer. Because he knew. He understood now. And Alva, standing frozen at the top of the stairs, felt her entire world fall apart. The next hours blurred into a haze that Alva could barely comprehend. Johan, her father, sat silently in the back of a police car, his head bowed, hands gripping his knees. The officer had been kind but firm, explaining to him that this was a criminal investigation, that DNA violations were serious offenses under Swedish law. Alva had followed in another car, Maya quietly holding her hand, whispering reassurances she wasn't sure she believed. By the time they arrived at the Västerås station, snow was falling again, larger flakes this time, sticking to car roofs and the windshield. Inside, the office smelled like coffee and paper. People moved around in their crisp uniforms, nodding at one another, but Alva felt as though she were invisible, like the world had reduced her to a single, unbearable question. Could she still call him father? An investigator led them into a room and motioned for Johan to sit. Alva perched at the far side of the table, her backpack still slung over her shoulder. The silence was suffocating until finally, Johan looked up. His eyes were red-rimmed, not with anger, not with rage, but with shock and sorrow. "Alva," he whispered, his voice catching. Why? "I had to," she said simply. Her own voice sounded strange to her. Small. Fragile.
Honest.
"I found out. I couldn't pretend it didn't happen. Not anymore." Johan's hands trembled. I thought I was doing something good. Something that wouldn't hurt anyone. I never thought it would this hurt you. Or Sarah. Or anyone." Alva felt tears streaming down her cheeks. "You lied to us. You made my mother carry a secret she never agreed to. And me. I don't even know who I am anymore." She bit her lip to stop herself from screaming. "Do you even realize what this is? This is breaking the law, Dad. You could go to jail." His shoulders slumped. I know. I'm sorry, Alva. I truly am. I can't undo it. But I never stopped loving you. Never. Not once." She wanted to hate him. She wanted to yell, throw something, run out into the snow, and never come back. But instead, all she could do was cry. The tears weren't just for her father's betrayal. They were for herself, for her mother, for the illusion of a life that now felt irreversibly fractured. The investigator spoke gently. "Mr. Lindstrom, we need a full account. Everything that happened at the clinic, all communications, all donations, everything. And Alva, we may need you to provide further documentation and possibly DNA samples to confirm the violation." Alva nodded numbly. I understand." Hours passed. Johan recounted the events as best as he could remember. He admitted to working at the clinic while studying biology, to donating sperm without registering properly, and to the choices that had led to Alva's conception. There was no rage, no justifications beyond a fumbled attempt at reasoning that could never erase what had been done. Alva listened, trying to reconcile the gentle man she had grown up with the lawbreaker who had shattered her reality. When they left the station, dusk had fallen. Snow clung to the branches, turning Västerås into a monochrome painting of white and gray. Johan didn't speak. Alva walked slightly ahead, Maja again by her side, the crunch of snow beneath their feet louder than usual in the still night. At home, Sarah was waiting. Her face was pale, eyes wide, and when she saw Alva, she rushed forward.
"Alva."
"What happened? Is he?" Alva swallowed. "Mom. I reported him." Sarah froze. The silence stretched longer than anything else could. Then, slowly, realization dawned. She covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes filling with tears. Oh my God. Alva felt her own heart splinter at the sound of her mother's broken voice. She wanted to comfort her, wanted to hug her, wanted to tell her it would all be okay, but she couldn't. Not yet. Sarah sat down heavily, covering her face with her hands. Why didn't you tell me you knew?" "I couldn't. I didn't know how. I didn't know what to do. I thought if I reported it, I could control it somehow. Make it right. Even if it hurts." Sarah exhaled shakily. "Alva, it's not your fault. None of this is your fault." "I know," Alva whispered, though the words didn't reach her heart. She felt hollow, empty, a fragile echo of herself. The next days were a whirlwind. The clinic was contacted, paperwork was reviewed, interviews were scheduled. Alva went to school, but classes felt unreal, the chatter of classmates fading into the distance. Maja was her constant anchor, keeping her grounded when the weight of the situation threatened to drown her entirely. At home, silence became a third resident. Johan, No longer the confident, protective father, moved carefully, spoke softly, each word measured. He tried to apologize repeatedly, but Alva couldn't respond. She loved him, yes, but love now existed alongside betrayal, fear, and confusion. She realized that people could be multifaceted, kind and cruel, loving and dishonest, sometimes all at once. One evening, Alva found herself sitting alone in her room. She opened her laptop and searched for online forums discussing DNA violations in Sweden. Stories of people discovering illegal donor relationships flooded her screen, some tragic, some surprisingly hopeful. She realized she wasn't alone. There were others who had navigated the impossible, who had somehow found light after betrayal. And for the first time in days, she felt a faint glimmer of hope that maybe, somehow, she could survive this, too. 2 weeks after the report, Johan received a court summons. The legal process would be lengthy. There were fines, the possibility of prison, and public scrutiny. Alva didn't know how she would face her peers if the story became public. She didn't know how her mother would react in the months to come. And she certainly didn't know how she would look at her father again. But one morning, as she walked past the frozen lake, she noticed the sunlight hitting the ice just right. Snowflakes danced in the light, and for a moment, everything seemed fragile, delicate, and beautiful. She understood then that life didn't pause for grief, betrayal, or shock. It simply continued. And she could continue too. She returned home and found Johan in the kitchen. He looked up, wary but hopeful. "Alva," he said softly, "can we talk? Not about the law, not about the police. Just us?" Alva nodded slowly. She wanted to hate him, but she also wanted to understand him. She wanted answers, closure, and perhaps, eventually, some semblance of peace. They sat across from each other. She looked into his eyes, searching for the man who had read her bedtime stories, wiped away her tears, and held her hand on icy mornings. That man was still there. Beneath the crime, beneath the lies, beneath the mistakes, he was still her father. "Dad, I don't know if I can forgive you," she said quietly. "Not yet. But I need to understand why." Johan exhaled slowly. I thought I was doing something harmless. Something scientific. I never imagined it would become real, that it would create you. And then hurt you. Hurt Sarah. Hurt everything. I understand that," Alva said, voice trembling. "But you still have to face what you did. That part, that's not something I can protect you from." He nodded, tears brimming. "I know. I'm ready. I accept it. Whatever happens, I accept it." For a long while, they sat in silence, listening to the wind whistling outside, the snow settling over their small house, the world continuing even in the midst of chaos. Alva realized something important then. The truth, no matter how painful, had a strange power. It could break you, but it could also set you free. She had made a choice, faced the consequences, and now, slowly, she would navigate the aftermath. With her mother, with her father, with herself. It wouldn't be easy. It might never be easy. But the bond between them, complex, fractured, and raw, was still there. And in that realization, Alva felt a tiny, stubborn flicker of hope. That night, she lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Outside, the snow continued to fall. It would cover the streets, the rooftops, and the frozen lake. And maybe, just maybe, it could also cover the cracks in her family, with a chance to rebuild. Not erase what had happened. Not pretend. But rebuild. Her father's actions had changed her life. Forever. But she still had the power to shape how she lived in the world that had been reshaped. And somehow, amidst the heartbreak, betrayal, and fear, she felt that she could. Because the truth, painful as it was, had also given her clarity. Sometimes, the hardest choices are the ones that lead to the strongest forms of courage. And Alva knew she was brave enough to face the consequences.